Welcome to this special episode of ADHDerpCast. So it's just me, Stephen, this week. We don't have Harv, and his wife have had a beautiful baby. So first off, we'd just like to wish them a very, very heartfelt congratulations on the new arrival. I'll let Harv share more details on that when he's ready and when he's had some family time. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this opportunity to take a look back at some of the stories that we shared. So at the start of ADHDerpCast, we really didn't know what we were going to do with the podcast. We knew we wanted to tell some stories. We knew we wanted to share experiences, and we wanted to explore. Where we went was we told our diagnosis journeys. We've shared our Medicaid stories. We have both had ups and downs in terms of Medicaid. So I personally but chose to come off an SSRI. Harv had to come off Ritalin, and that's been one hell of a wild ride. So go back and have a listen to those episodes. We share an awful lot of information in those. We share a lot of personal stories. There's a lot of ups and downs, and we share some. There's quite a few hilarious moments as we kind of go through. There's a lot of personal sharing. There's ups, downs. We talk about like mishaps and our journey. We have a special guest. We had on episode 4, we had Stephen Daly join us, which was a fantastic conversation. I highly recommend people to go back and have a look at that. But tune in for this episode. We're going to take a look back over some of our favorite moments from the season so far. And once we finish looking at those, come back to me and we'll share what's coming next.
Graham gets sick of that because I'm well known for bringing back strays.
Yeah.
And you and Rachel were strays,
yeah.
basically. And he had his core group of 3 friends that he still has. And when he met me, that grew exponentially. And he hates it. We have so many different groups with so many subcategories and stuff like that, and he's like, go away, stop bringing people into my life.
This is the other funny thing, because me and Graham are the grumpy bastards of the relationship.
Yep.
Where you and Rachel are like the happy, outgoing people,
positive affirmation,
which is it's like weird that we connected in the opposite way, although it probably isn't, because I
have a Graham and you have a Rachel. Yeah. On that level, it makes sense, and again explains the sexual tension. Yeah, we never figured that one out. That's what brought us here.
Like you mentioned, how important it is to seek the diagnosis, but not only seeking the diagnosis, because that's great from our perspective as the diagnosed, but it really needs to be a more open conversation, and that's what we're trying to do. With this podcast and with the conversations that we're having, to make it more acceptable to have these open conversations. And if it does become more kind of widespread and acknowledged that not everybody, can do an interview the same as some people, specific tests or specific ways of doing things don't really work for everybody.
Yeah.
And that if we can kind of push that idea and that conceptualization out to the wider community, maybe recruitment practices change, and maybe things become easier for people.
If us doing this affects even one person, if one person in an interview or one hiring manager performing an interview changes the way they think and it affects an outcome in a more positive way, that's immense. That's impacting someone's life there, and that's like if we do that once, we've done what we've set out to do. I think I always kind of knew that there was, I kind of described it as a bit missing. There was something that didn't quite click. It was like a jigsaw piece just wasn't there. And for years, it's funny you mentioned about autism. For years I thought it was autism, and I thought I was autistic, because there's a quite strong vein of autism running through my family. There's several family members that have different varying degrees of autism. So for years I just kind of accepted that there was some sort of neurodiverse something, and just kind of developed a coping mechanism and just kind of dealt. I never really looked into any kind of formal diagnosis. And I think, like, when you say about the depression and when you were a teenager, you were going to do it and then just changed your mind.
Yeah.
It's similar to that. I think I kind of decided against a formal diagnosis because, like, in my younger years, because I was kind of afraid of them telling me that I was quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
That there wasn't anything like formal wrong with me, and wrong is the wrong word, but there wasn't any kind of neurodiversity.
Yeah.
And I was just lazy, or I just didn't have the same coping skills that other people had, and that was just something I had to deal with. So that kind of was something I just accepted, that like there was something missing and I just had to deal with it. Then as I was in my 30s and approaching my 40s, and we made the decision to expand our family. And as we were kind of doing that, I decided that I needed to kind of take a bit more responsibility for what was going on. And there was many factors in this decision. But one of the main ones was that for all of my life, I've had a fear of driving.
Okay.
Anyone who kind of knows me will be very aware of that. Like Graham, my husband, always had to be the main driver, or when I did start to learn to drive in my 30s, that it was a very stoppy-starty, not very focused process at all. And I did everything in my power to get out of it and absolutely hated the whole process. And would like sometimes leave the car shaking with fear and just absolutely hated the whole thing. So I went to a GP and talked about that initially. And I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder, or generalized anxiety disorder, and was medicated on that. And that made a massive difference, like huge. It changed my life after the loading dose process, which again is something we'll talk about during the medication episode. But there was still it fixed some things, but it didn't click fully. So there were still some issues that I was noticing that, again, I just kind of accepted and just dealt with. I'd gotten a diagnosis, so I was like, that should be me done. Why am I not happy? Why am I still having these things? So I was just kind of like, yeah, it's definitely autism. It's definitely autism. And there was one day, and I don't remember what the tipping point was, but I was in one room and Graham was in another room, and we were texting. And I said something to him about being autistic. And he sent me a screenshot of 2 lists of symptoms. So, I'll go back a little bit further. Yeah. People have said that I have ADHD for a long time, but I always just ignored it. Said that it was. I've had friends who've said I have ADHD for years, right. And I always just kind of ignored it, and said no, it's autism. It's definitely autism. Autism's in the family. So then Graham, I think he just got frustrated, and he sent me a screenshot of 2 lists of kind of like checklists.
Okay, yeah.
One was autism and the other one was ADHD, and I was like, oh, I have none of this one. I have all of that. And
did you know which list was which at this time?
I did, but it was still kind of almost like a watershed moment where it was just like, oh,
yeah,
oh, I've been saying this wrong, and it was weird. I almost had a sense of loss.
Yeah,
at the identity that I had assigned myself, but also a feeling of renewal, because I was like, oh no, this fits me better, and it's a complete match, and the jigsaw clicked into place. And oh, and that was so. At that point, there was no dealing with it. It was just I have to go and get a diagnosis.
Okay,
this has to happen now, because I need to formalize this so I can actually do something about it. But what actually led you to, like you said about growing up in North County Dublin and things, and what actually led you to explore a diagnosis? I know it was fairly late in life, but did you have any idea in early life or anything?
I'm so glad you asked, right? And looking back now, I could see that it was probably there in different ways all throughout childhood, all throughout kind of being a teenager in school, college, whatever else. But actually what led me to it was, and actually I was speaking to this is like, it sounds like I'm name dropping like Clang. I was speaking to a journalist from the Independent about this whole area as well. They did a feature piece on this, like, you know, and for me, the big thing that kind of ticked a lot of boxes was TikTok, right? So like, you know, and you know, people think, oh, it's just where you go to learn dances and like see what the kids are up to. But having gotten into TikTok, I found my way to ADHD TikTok, you know, through whatever, and just listening to the way people spoke about the symptoms they had or the things they experienced, I started to piece a lot of it together. And like, my partner was very supportive of all this. So my partner grew up in Canada, where things seem to work a little bit better than they do in Ireland, and we'll just leave it at that because we can go on a whole other podcast about that. But you know, she would have a very kind of open way of kind of diagnosing these things, or like, you know, it's just a bit more clued in or a bit more together. It's a bit more concrete. And she was like, yeah, 200% you have ADHD for sure. And like, go and do the test or the assessment or whatever else. And again, it was one of those things that I put on the long finger for the longest time.
Was that early in the relationship, Stephen, or was that kind of later down the line?
So early in the relationship, she probably twigged that, hang on, there's something not right here, as in like, and again, like, you know, it's pros and cons, and I'm sure you lads have the same, where there are both good and bad parts to this thing, and like, there are some amazing skills you get from it. And like, you know, I was talking to another friend of mine who, I actually don't know if he has a diagnosis, but he works in the creative industries as well. You know, he's a writer for TV and various bits and pieces. But if he hasn't diagnosed it, he is undiagnosed, and he's kind of just gone along with, you know, watching videos like we have and kind of went, yeah, I have it, without actually taking the step of getting an official one. But as he put it, you don't see too many accountants with ADHD. So like, there is a whole side of it that brings this wonderful, and I want to say madness, like, you know, it brings this madness, this energy, or this thing, you know, where you've got this creative spark or whatever in you, but then it also brings all the bad bits. So she was able to kind of look at that and go, yeah, hang on, there's something not right here. And, you know, would kind of lead me towards those videos and be like, see this here? That's you there. That's you. And the more I watched it, the more I was like, yeah, holy God, this is me. Like, you know, and then from there, I just kind of worked out, you know, I put it on the long finger for ages about getting a diagnosis, you know, but eventually just took the plunge last year. And yeah, like, I spoke to, so I went through a company, and people ask this all the time, where did you go or how did you go about it? And I'm sure you guys get it all the time too.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, obviously you can go to your GP and you can start the whole kind of public health route that takes forever to go with it. I ended up going privately, and I went to a company called Doctor Online, who do like a 3-step process. Now, it's an expensive enough process, and I always say that to anyone, but well worth it. Like, so you do 2 consultations with a psychologist and then 1 with a psychiatrist, and like, within, you know, actually, and I was like laughing, like, so funny. Typical ADHD, I scheduled an appointment with the psychologist and forgot that it was a thing. Like, totally, like, went out of my head, times, dates, everything completely. Even though I had done it and spent so much money on it, the guy rang me and was like, I'm sitting here waiting for you. Where are you? Why aren't you doing this? Like, and then when I explained, he was like, I don't even need to do anything else with you. I can already tell this is going to be good.
The thing is, like, when you're building on knowledge in a kind of consecutive way, when, like, let's say 1 leads to 2, leads to 3, leads to 4. Let's say life happens and you miss 2, and you go 1, 3, 4. What happens with me is when I get to 3, I'll be like, I missed something, I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Then I start to feel overwhelmed, and when I start to feel overwhelmed, rather than reach out and try and figure out where that gap is, I tend to shut down. And I'm just like, I can't do this.
But do you know you've missed 2? Do you know that's... Because I feel like I'm the same. But if I know that if I know there's something missing, then I'll be able to go and figure it out. But if I don't know, if I don't understand why I'm not grasping the concept, or I don't know that there's a missing piece of information or something.
If I know how to get that slice back, then I'll be fine. I'll go figure it out and plug that into whatever. If I don't, and that's oftentimes I won't look back and try and figure it out. I'll go straight to just blaming myself. I go, I just don't understand this. This isn't for me. This isn't something that I'll be able to understand. And I just put like a shell around myself and withdraw from the information and shut myself down. But if I go back and go, just look at, here's 2, it's clearly labelled as 2, plug 2 into 3 and you'll be fine. I'll be able to pick up, but more often than not, I'll just be like, nah, this isn't for someone of me who is obviously of lesser intellect. which often isn't the case. Because then if I do go and figure it out and do it, I understand it in a way that's different to other people on the course. And I remember there was a time on the course where everyone was like, we can't figure this out. We don't know this. It's so complex. It's so confusing. And I'm like, what am I not doing? And I went that way. I instantly went to blaming myself.
That's something that I've experienced an awful lot. You know, if the majority of people are doing something different to you, even though you feel like you've gotten the right thing, then it's an automatic, oh, well, then I've done it wrong.
I've done it wrong.
Yeah.
Like, they're finding this hard. I'm finding this really easy.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm the one who's wrong. And I remember our lecturer calling me out and being like, Stephen did this in a really different way to everyone else. And it was a roundabout way, but technically ingenious because it eliminated this, and eliminated this. And I was like, is that good or bad? But it was just the way I had tangented into the correct answer.
Yeah.
But like if I can plug back in the missing piece, it'll work fine.
Yeah. But I'm gonna issue you a challenge, okay? Because I want to change your perspective on mindfulness, because I know how powerful it can be from my own experience. So your challenge is, there's an app called Insight Timer. Okay, Insight, INSIGHT Timer. And you can download that, and in it there's a 7-day kind of tutorial learning to meditate type thing program. And it's very short, you know. I think they're kind of between 3 and 7 or 15 minutes. There's one for each day, so you do one every day for 7 days. You kind of learn about what mindfulness meditation is supposed to be, what it's not supposed to be, little tips and tricks to help you to do it. And it's in those little kind of tiny bite-sized chunks, rather than the 30-minute sit-downs where you're setting yourself up to fail and be pissed off with it. So give that a go, right? Try it. And if you're going through it and you feel, okay, I've done day 1 and day 2, I feel like day 3 is a bit too much for me, go and do day 2 again or day 1 again. Mix and match, you know, and then build yourself up to day 3, day 4, day 5, however you need to, whatever feels comfortable for you. But remember, the key thing is just let it happen, okay? Let the thoughts come and let them go. Bring yourself back to your breath or whatever the guide says, and don't judge yourself about it, because people who've been doing it for years and decades, they still get that monkey brain. They still get that situation where they get distracted and they get taken out of their presentness. The only difference is they know not to be judgmental about it and can bring themselves back to the present situation. So give that a go and keep me posted. And other people who are listening, give it a go as well.
Yeah, I'm like literally about to download it right now.
Nice.
So there's baby monitor popping up for my my squirrel of a child. I'm going to install that right now. It's free, I can see, which is nice. I think, I would suggest then that any of our listeners who want to do that as well, I think what we should do is link that app, both the Google Play Store and App Store links for that app, because I think there's a lot of people like me who will have misconceptions or like preconceived notions about what mindfulness is. So I invite, in the same way as you have challenged me, I challenge other people who are listening to this to also try that and see if it makes any difference, because whatever helps. I'll try anything once, you know. So absolutely going to do that. Thank you for the challenge, and thank you for the suggestion and for the insight. Nice
one. I'm like a Jehovah's Witness for mindfulness. I've let myself down for a long time now by not practicing. Even though I know how much benefit I get from it, I just, no matter how much I want to do it, I always find that there are other things more pressing that I need to spend my time on. which makes a lot of sense, you know, in the environment that I live in. There's always things to do, and there's always people to talk to or whatever it is. But like we've spoken about before, the gym, it's one of those self-care things that you know it's important, you know you should do it, you know the benefits are there. You just have to make time for it, and it's probably a challenge I need to take on myself to start spending more time self-caring in that way.
Yeah, actually, do you know what? That's exactly right, because we're talking to you as if you are an ambassador of mindfulness, but you've just admitted there that you don't devote as much time as you want to. So then I reissue your challenge back to you to do the same thing. I'm doing, to do the exact same challenge as well. Make time every day to practice mindfulness.
Yeah, and it's especially important, like, not important, but for me, it would be especially important in these circumstances, you know, where overwhelm and anxiety are cropping up, where stress is through the roof, you know, time is kind of running away from you. It's in those moments, especially, where being present and taking a step back allows you to kind of look at things in perspective. You know, I'm up the wall with everything that I need to do, but at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world if I don't get an A, or if I submit something late, or, you know, any of these types of things. The real situation is my family safe? Is my family happy? And that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, those are the real important things at the end of the day. And you kind of do need a nudge when you're in these situations to be able to say, hey, look, Jesus, just give yourself a break. Like, take a step back. You're on a kind of runaway train, but like, you just step off if you really want to.
Yeah. I'm inspired. Okay, so do you want to tell people why your brain is like a box of frogs that's been run over by a truck, and I have been absolutely dreading each and every interaction with you for the last while?
Yeah, so it's been I was thinking about this the other day, okay, right? I feel like we need to change the name of the show to the Harv's Had a Shitty Week show. Because literally every single episode starts with, so how's your week been? And then it's like me going on a rant, tirade of all the shit things that are going on.
All the insurmountable problems that you seem to struggle upon.
I actually used the word insurmountable in my email to one of my lecturers. So
okay.
Bang on there. So yeah, we talked last week, I think, about college and how things are just kicking off. Everything's so super crazy. And it's just like a huge tsunami of work all coming, you know, coming to a head at the exact same time at the end of the semester. So last week I was coming up to the very final week of semester 2 before the exams were due. And there was, I think I mentioned last week, loads of deliverables that needed to be done. And unfortunately, on the Monday of the last week, I had to go to my doctor's. We had moved from direct care from my psychiatrist to shared care, which is a thing in Ireland where they do half care with your GP and half care with your psychiatrist. So you essentially only have to go to your psychiatrist like once a year or once every 6 months instead of, you know, much more regularly.
Yeah, for me, it's once every 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. So we had agreed on my last meeting with my psychiatrist that we would do that. Got an email or a text from the GP to say, look, you need to come in for a checkup, blah, blah, blah. So we organised a BP, 24-hour BP monitor, which I'd never had. I didn't find it, you know, too annoying. Everybody was saying it's going to be a pain in the ass, you know, you're not going to like it. It goes off every half an hour and wakes you up all through the night, but I found it okay.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, it's basically a box that's attached to you with a blood pressure cuff attached to your arm. And yeah, it gives regular blood pressure readings. It's a Holter monitor, it's called. Yeah,
so it's basically goes off every half hour. And then when you're, I think 11 o'clock is switched over to every hour. But yeah, it wasn't too bad, except for when I was writing my reports and stuff for trying to code. And then every half an hour, you're like, oh shit, that's another half an hour gone. It's almost like a countdown clock.
Beep, beep, word.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, that's another half an hour gone out of the time I have left to get these things finished. So it's almost like someone's, standing behind you with a whip. Get it done. You're losing time. But yeah, that happened on Monday. So I was really productive on Monday, even with the cuff, and got a really good bit of work done on one of the major project deliverables. Then Tuesday comes around, up to the doctor in the morning to see how things are going, and got the, just absolutely heart-wrenching news that my BP was too high to continue on my meds, and that I essentially had to come off them immediately. Now, I hadn't taken them yet on Tuesday morning, because I take them kind of more towards the late morning. So I didn't even have any in me at that stage. But yeah, he's essentially saying there's too high a risk of cardiac problems if you don't come off your meds immediately and don't take them. And then 4 weeks' time, come back, we'll do another BP monitor for 24 hours and see how it is and go from there.
Okay.
And I was legit near tears when he said that, kind of just blew me away, because the stress and pressure of trying to get everything done is enough on its own, without now basically being told you don't have the one thing that actually helps you to get all these things done anymore, and you just have to do it on your own, which you've struggled with your whole life, and actually have kind of an A/B test of a master's you've tried to do before and failed at because of the ADHD and because of the struggles of being able to focus for assignments and stuff like that. So it was a very rough Tuesday.
That is literally everything that we have built with this podcast was because we were seeking discomfort. We were uncomfortable and we did it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You look at us a year ago, there's no way I'd be talking to anybody for this amount of time. My wife's always kind of telling me, you talk to Stephen more than you talk to me. And it's true.
That's the unbridled sexual tension as well.
Between my wife and myself, we can't talk to each other. I know what you meant.
It's all for me. No, it's all for me. I know. I know it's not, but it is, and I will. I'll fight anyone who says otherwise.
But yeah, shit. Now I can. Oh yeah. Yeah. So we were. Where's the meds? Somebody
this
sent
is
me
the sexual tension. I've distracted you with that again. Sorry.
God's sake! Close your mouth, Robert.
Creates a better seal.
Yeah. Fuck's sake. See, this is a hostile work environment. That's what this is.
I know.
Where's HR? Oh my god. Anyway, going back to what we were originally talking about. So, yes, we have seeked discomfort, but I don't think we've necessarily seeked it in that kind of way. We had a vision in our minds of what we wanted to do and what we wanted to pursue and achieve. And rather than seeking the discomfort actively, we kind of passively came across it along the long and winding road of creating stuff. And rather than shit ourselves and turn our tails and leg it down the road, we faced it kind of head on and supported each other through the dodgy bits, and
we shot ourselves anyway, wiped ourselves off, and kept going.
Exactly, and we're still doing that.
Yeah, it's right now. That's exactly it. That's the thing. We've just kept going. We felt those shitty feelings of I can't do this, and then we did it anyway. So I wouldn't have it any other way, and I wouldn't have anyone else beside me doing it. So hooray for us.
Aw, shucks. I'm emotionally barren, so I'm not even going to pretend to feel something from that.
So, this is actually something else. I have been trying to get a hug. Now, this man, in my experience, we used to live fairly close together, and we used to be in each other's house fairly commonly, and I couldn't leave the house without getting a hug, and that was always instigated by him. So
I have been trying since we set up this podcast.
This facts I didn't notice.
This is
Well,
facts,
obviously
yes.
I knew it at the time, but I have no memories of these things. But
Yeah, I used to give yourself and Rach a hug, and actually it
I
would be
thought
you.
your
who would have done it.
fascination with hugs was that you never got one from me. That's what I
No,
thought.
I used to get them all the time.
Oh, okay.
You used to be a very huggy young man. Now you're just a bitter, grumpy young man.
I was always a bitter, grumpy young man. I'm obviously just living out there in the fresh air kind of changed things.
Yeah, I was. I was going to say it was my influence, but I've been for the past 6 months since we've been kind of spending a lot more time around each other. I've been requesting hugs, and my requests have gone unfulfilled. So,
Okay, here's a challenge for you. Put a milestone down on the table, and when we hit that it has to be a reasonable milestone. I will give you the biggest hug that you've ever received, and you have to keep your hands very, very well visible.
they can be visible and still inappropriate, but I think you mean above the top.
Yeah,
shelf.
let's keep them definitely, at least 4 foot from the ground.
I can work with that. Okay, I'll tell you what. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, you owe me 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. You owe me that one.
I think that's too small.
I don't think it is.
I think it's too small. Like, I was looking at the other app that kind of helps you figure out YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the original goal, I think, is like 150 subscribers. Then the second goal is like 300. Then it goes to 200 or 500. And from 500, it jumps up to 4,600. So I think realistically, you're looking at 4,600.
Now, let's split the difference. We'll go 2,005.
Okay, deal.
Okay.
2,500.
What are we going to do when we're talking about that?
You fucking have to do it. You can't go there. You can't just leave well enough alone.
We're going to
Oh
need
my God.
they'll be for Patreon. We'll have to get that set up for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, I think
Anyway.
we'll leave it there.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's,
where
that's
were we?
enough
What were we
snuff for
talking about?
tonight.
I like it though. I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good goal. 2,500. It's one of those things, isn't it? It's like a constantly moving goal. It's like, I think we talked about this, about like my grades in college and stuff like that. You're happy. You have an idea of what you'd be happy with in your head. And then when you get to that, it's like, I'm so not happy with this. I need more. I need more. I need more. It's like a constant train. So yeah,
I'm a very
crazy. And once we get there, we'll be like, this is shit. Like, we need to get more.
I'm a very emotionally needy person. So I need that hug. So I'm going to implore everyone who's listened to this. It's not going to cost you anything. Just press that little subscribe button. While you're at it, feel free to like and comment.
There to cost them people subscribe.
Subscribe. Yeah, no, just bring me one little click closer to my dreams.
Yes.
Those squishy hugs that I used to get back in the day that I've been longing for so long.
And squishier now as well.
Squishier now. We've also learned that when we're doing our eardrops, we don't send photos while we have droplets of milk in our beard.
Rachel was like laughing at me, but anytime I have cereal, I don't eat cereal an awful lot because I'm not really much of a fan of milk anymore. But I always get milk in my beard, regardless of the situation or what I'm eating or whatever it is. Every single time there is milk in my beard from the get-go. And she came over to do my eardrops. Or I think I went over to her to do my eardrops, and she's doing them. I have to tilt my head like completely sideways. She's like, "What? Why is there milk in your beard?" I'm like, "There's always milk in my beard. It's just like common knowledge. I can't believe you've been my wife for this long, and we've been together for 13 years, and you don't know about milky beard." But then stupidly, Harvey sends the picture to Stephen, saying, "Oh, I just got my eardrops done, and I feel like shit." And of course, I have a milky beard, and Stephen runs straight to his bedroom to enjoy that picture.
It's firmly logged and lodged in an image repository or bank of some description, we might say.
God.
I got to show the picture here. But I think what we should do is when this is being edited, I think we should have the picture on screen. For
I
other
don't
people
think that's
to-
reasonable. I
I
think
think it's incredibly
I think
reasonable.
I think that amounts to some sort of abuse. Where's that HR? Fuck's sake.
Milk.
Jesus Christ. Okay. That's a new level of personal sharing now. I often forget to eat and drink and all that kind of stuff.
When you say that to people, they're like, how are you a fat fuck then?
Yeah, because you binge then.
Exactly.
It's like, I haven't eaten all day. Now I need to get, I'll order a
7
takeaway.
chickens.
Yeah, I'll order a takeaway. While I'm waiting for the takeaway to come, I'll have a packet of crisps and a bar.
Yeah.
And then when you're finished your takeaway, I'll have a pint of ice cream. Mm-hmm. And it's all right before bed because you haven't eaten all day.
Yeah. Quick side note, what's your takeaway order?
Depends where I'm going.
Chinese.
I'm a very bland person.
Okay.
So I like a 5-in-1.
I do like a 5-in-1.
I'm really intolerant to garlic. So
I never knew that.
I love shredded chicken.
Oh, I do like
But I can't have garlic on it.
For our
So
non-Irish...
it's just so plain, like.
For our non-Irish listeners and watchers,
Yeah.
what's a 5-in-1?
A 5-in-1. So in my Chinese, a 5-in-1 is... So let's start with a 3-in-1, right?
Yeah.
So
back to basics.
You've got rice,
Yeah.
curry sauce. I usually get barbecue sauce. I don't like curry. And chips
You don't like curry?
No. in a tray.
We just stop recording. This
Well,
this is over.
There's
I literally have curry stains on me right now.
imagine a list of all of the things that normal people eat.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are on my list of things that I eat. Wow. I literally eat fuck all. Like I'm so picky. I'm not
really
too,
plain
Not
as
too
well.
bad as I used to be. I've kind of experimented and moved out of my comfort zone with it. But another ADHD thing, eating the same thing all the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, so sauce, rice, and chips in a tray, 3-in-1, 4-in-1, sauce, rice, chips, and maybe chicken, beef.
Typically
or-
like chicken balls.
In your place?
Most places, chicken balls.
Yeah,
They do
really?
4-in-1, yeah.
Okay.
Or they do shredded chicken.
Yeah. So that's the 4-in-1. I've also got it with chicken fried rice, which is nice.
Okay.
So chicken fried rice, chips, and sauce.
That's called the special tray or something, I think.
Okay, right. So then the 5-in-1 has the chicken balls and the shredded chicken in it.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay.
You get like 2 chicken balls and a bit of shredded
None of this is in any way Chinese.
I know, yeah, I know. So yeah, that's what I get sometimes. I like chicken fried rice as well.
Yeah,
Very
same.
plain, like. Yeah. But like, that's my Chinese. I don't eat any like Chinese food.
No, I do. I tend, like when I'm ordering, Graham's very plain. He'll get like chicken balls, chips, and curry sauce.
Yeah.
And that's like, there's no deviation
Yeah,
from
yeah.
that. I'll tend to go to like the chef's recommendation section
Well, la di da.
and pick out, go like, ooh, Tinjin duck. That looks nice.
Okay.
Or like char sui, something like that.
Are you having a stroke?
It's a pork thing,
Right.
pork belly, and it's very, very nice. You
You don't give a shit. You just eat anything.
I'll put that in my mouth.
Yeah. Well, we know that. Yeah.
Except for tomatoes. Tomatoes are the fucking devil.
Why do you not like tomatoes?
I think it's a texture thing.
Texture.
Because I like tomato sauce.
Yeah.
I like in pasta. I don't like salsa because it's too tomato bitty.
Tomatoey.
But like actual tomatoes,
Yeah.
cooked raw, devil.
Yeah. What about onions?
I used to like the texture of onions. Used to make me gag.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, I've kind of been okay with it. Raw onions are still a hell no. Crispy onions,
Crispy onions are the bomb.
Fucking-
I fucking hate onions.
best thing in the world.
But crispy onions, because of the texture,
Or onion rings. I like onion rings.
I don't like onion rings.
I like onion rings on a burger.
I don't like onion rings.
No, go fuck yourself. No, onion rings are nice on a burger.
Right. How do we get here? Where are we? Fucking talking about our Chinese orders. I fucking hate tomatoes.
Yeah. tomatoes.
So, this is an ADHD podcast about tomatoes.
Please sing a song.
So, what about you then? Are you fully off your, I want to say Lexapro?
Lexapro, yeah. I haven't taken Lexapro in a while.
Yeah.
There's definitely been an adjustment period. There's been managing my emotions has become something I have to consciously be aware of.
In what way?
I find that when I'm just on Ritalin, it's almost like the Lexapro is tempering the mood affecting parts of Ritalin. And when I'm just on Ritalin, that's a bit more magnified. So I have to be a bit more aware of the potential mood swings and mitigate it and kind of breathe a bit more, basically, and bring myself back down. I'm finding I'm back to when I was quite quick to anger and quite quick to being very reactionary.
Yeah.
Like not in any kind of, like, I'm not exactly like smashing glasses off a wall or anything like that, but this is bullshit kind of fast. But it's like, it's okay. It's manageable. It's fine. It's not like that's in any way debilitating. I just have to be aware of how I'm feeling, you know? And when I react to something, I have to kind of try and make myself take a step back and go, am I reacting to this or am I reacting to this? You know?
Yeah.
And is it just triggering like a sense of injustice? Which I am quite hyper aware of at the minute, because of how I'm reacting to things. And I'm trying to see if my reactions to things are legitimate or if I'm just reacting, you know? So all in all, like that, the thing is, I was on Lexapro to manage anxiety, and none of the discussions of coming off it have been around anxiety. Like that hasn't peaked, or there hasn't been any, anxiety peaks or any stressors around that side of things at all. So I think Ritalin is managing that side of it really well. I haven't had any panic attacks or anything like that, or any kind of anxiety attacks coming off Lexapro, which has been pretty sweet because they weren't great. I didn't have panic attacks per se. It was more like big anxiety attacks. Like I wouldn't have had the heightened heart rate, can't really do anything. It was more slow burner than that. Like I'd talk myself out of situations. Like if I knew I had a big drive coming up, I'd make excuses and try and create a situation where I wouldn't have to do the drive. And it would just be constantly in my head all the time. So less panic attacky, more constant. And I haven't had any of that. That has been quite nice. And I'm more able to not get in my head. So like, I used to be very procrastinating. Like, let's say, like me and Graham were just on holiday, and the big thing for me was always like going into new places. And I'd always talk myself out of being the first person to go into a new place, or find reasons to not go and stuff like that. Whereas now I'm very much, let's go here, and just walking in, you know. And
I was exactly the same. I was exactly the same with that. Like when we were in Rome for our honeymoon and stuff, usually I'd be like the one who wants to stay in the hotel, you know, maybe just go to the restaurant in the hotel because I'm, you know, have this kind of subconscious fear of strange places. But in Rome, we walked all over the place. We didn't, you know, we had no bones about going anywhere. But you mentioned the not being in your head. Like that's the one bit that I miss most about, I think, the Ritalin, because I'm always in my head now. Like you have no space. Yeah.
I see it in you when we're talking about things, even when we're talking about simple things like editing and stuff like that. It's like you find it hard to let the little things go. It's like you're almost obsessing on small details, or like constantly on, you know, whereas I'm like, let's do this, throw it up, done. You're like, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is wrong. You know, like, whereas those
that perfectionism has come back because the little voice inside my head has come back.
That's probably been for what we're doing, that's been one of the big challenges, trying to get you past that. Not everything needs to be perfect, you know what I mean?
And it's funny because I've had this conversation with a few different people. You know, a friend who was starting a business and a friend who was can't remember what they were doing, but it was a similar thing. And having gone through this process for the podcast, you know, where we realized let's get it 80% of the way and then it's fine to put out. And I had this conversation with these people and gave them that advice from the experience. But now, obviously, it's ricocheted back onto me with the change in circumstances.
But let's see how you get on, Dr. Wise, see if that...
What's wrong with Harv?
What's wrong with Harv? Let's see what... Yeah, in the next issue of What's Wrong with Harv, things will be right with Harv, hopefully.
Yeah.
So that's where things are.
Nice.
So that's the story so far, and that's a wrap on season 1 of ADHDerpCast. But this is by no means the end of the journey for Harv and I. We are currently planning some new things. We're planning on what our next steps are going to be, and we have plenty of topics to talk about in season 2. So we're planning those at the moment. We're discussing a couple of other things, a few other types of projects we want to explore. I want to explore. I've got one that I'm planning, a solo one. That's in works. It's something I've been planning for a little while, so that's going to be coming soon. I know Harv's planning a solo one as well, so keep an eye out for those. We'll be talking about those on our platforms, on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, so keep an eye out for those announcements as well. But season will be back soon. We're discussing a couple of other things. We're toying around with the idea of a rebrand. So, as always, let us know what you think. Let us know any comments you have. Thanks a million for joining us on the journey so far. But please do stay with us, and we'll be back soon. But for now, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, give us any and all feedback. And thanks for joining us so far. So, that's